Well, my dear Barbara, we are delighted to be with you once again in this kind of weird connection we have. it's 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 absolutely delightful. And so, without further ado, let us proceed into whatever it is we did here, what you and Johnny were talking about. So, let us proceed into whatever or wherever you wish to take this from this moment.
Where I want to take it, wherever it will go.
Okay, good.
Okay. It seems that more and more people are coming to the point in their lives where they just don't want to get an ordinary job anymore. They feel very drawn to do their spiritual work or something they feel, something I've come here to do, even if they don't necessarily know what that thing is.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think about that?
First of all, there's nothing wrong with what you call ordinary jobs or ordinary work, because that's where most of you have been at one point or another in this particular lifetime, at this particular time in your planet's history. But today, as we've talked about before with you and with others, there is a heightening consciousness, a heightening awareness of a greater awareness, if you will, of who you all really are. Sometimes you come to that awareness in very painful ways. And you've been witnessing a lot of that sort of thing on your planet here in all these recent events. For example, the Boston Marathon bombings. But now you're waking up in a way that you've never awakened before, really, in a very real sense. And what is taken these, from a human perspective, is taken these tragic events to get you more awake, basically. And so what these events are doing for you, even though they're painful, what they're doing for you is they're waking you up even more. They're waking more of you up even more. And you're realizing that the situations you have created for yourselves, and we're talking about relationships, we're talking about work, and we realize that your focus with your question is work, but it goes far beyond that. We're talking about your relationships, your work, your physical well-being or lack of it. So what's happening here is you are becoming more and more aware of what is not working. And one of the things, to get back to your original question here, one of the things that's not working for a lot of you is being in these ordinary jobs, this ordinary work that provides you with money, yes, but provides you with no satisfaction or no joy. And so, you're recognizing that you as the human race are recognizing that. And sometimes that plays out in these violent episodes that you've seen very recently in the United States and in other countries too. We're not picking on the United States. And so you know something has to change. This ain't working anymore. The old ways are not working. It's time to shed them. It's time to let them go. It's time to let the old relationships go. It's time to let the old work, whatever that is to you, go. It's time to let it all go. All the old stuff needs to go, and it needs to go now. And you know that. And that's why you're feeling all this discomfort, all this angst, all this pain, because something has to change. And we applaud you for being as courageous as you are as a human race in confronting, well, that's probably not the right word, in facing, we don't mean confronting in a hostile or negative way, but you're facing, you're acknowledging, you're accepting that all this stuff that's happening now is what you've created. And you take responsibility for it. And that's a good thing. It's a very good thing. Even though it hurts like hell sometimes, as your recent events have demonstrated, it's a good thing because it's gotten you from where you were in that place that wasn't working. And again, we're talking about work, relationships, your physical health. It's gotten you from those places that weren't working for you in those areas to this place where you're saying to yourselves, this has got to change. This ain't working, and it's never going to work again. It did work for many years, many centuries, but it's not working now. It's time to change. So that's why so many people are coming to this question that you've asked us. They know something has to change, and they're becoming more and more willing to do it. There was a lot of hesitation there still is on the part of many people, but there was a lot of hesitation to change, even though the person or persons wanted to change, because they felt that they, in making that change, would be less secure, less safe, less abundant. And so the key here for all of you who are asking these kinds of questions is to recognize that the discomfort you're feeling, the pain that you may be feeling, the lack of joy you may be feeling, the lack of fulfillment, the lack of just plain being happy that you're feeling is not the way you're supposed to be living this lifetime. That was not your sole intent when you came into this life. Your sole intent was to experience these challenges, but to move through them in a joyful way, even though it may be, from your physical perspective, painful at times, and that certainly has been the case lately. But it's important for you to recognize your soul's perspective, basically. That's what we're saying. To recognize that you came here for a reason. The reason was to grow. The reason was to have fun, to expand your awareness, to expand your consciousness. You've just chosen some pretty difficult paths to doing all of that. And that's okay. We're not criticizing you. What we are saying is that you can move beyond all of that by simply acknowledging who you are, which is God, Goddess in human form. And so we've drifted a little bit off the point of your question here, but what you need to do, those of you who are questioning your work and the validity of it, the value of it, what you need to do is to remember who you are and then let that lead you to your real work, the real reason you came here to begin with, the reason your soul, your spirit, decided that you should incarnate into this particular lifetime in this particular period of your planet's history. Does that help?
Yes, and you didn't really go off tangent because what you did was answer my next question before I asked it.
Yes, we do that sometimes.
There is a lot. There's a lot of talk out there in spiritual circles. I'm not talking about mass consciousness, but even in spiritual circles, there's a lot of talk of this is the time to walk through the fear. What you want is on the other side of the fear. And in my personal situation, there's been a lot of fear as well. I think in most people's experience, there's been a lot of fear. Is there a prerequisite that there has to be fear? Why? It makes sense that we're changing from old ways of being to the new ways of being, but there's this kind of big tough step that of fear that it's kind of difficult perhaps to sidestep it.
Well, fear is a great teacher for all of you. It's not necessary, but that's what you've chosen, at least for a while. And it's a good thing because it makes you aware of who you are not. You are not these trivial, insignificant little beings, human beings, physical beings, who have come onto this planet to suffer and to feel as insignificant and unimportant as most of you do feel. You haven't come here to do all that. And so the way fear serves you, Barbara, is it makes you realize that what you are not. That's exactly what it does. It helps you to see who you are not. These insignificant little beings that many of you conceive yourselves or perceive yourselves to be. That is not who you are. So fear jolts you back into reality, if you will. It makes you realize that you're way off course. And the way to handle that, in our opinion, is to take this fear that you're feeling, whatever the specific situation is, take the fear that you're feeling about that situation. And we're kind of paraphrasing our old dear friend Emmanuel here, but take that fear and hold it in one hand. And then, in the other hand, take the same situation that you're feeling fearful about and hold in that hand the love that you can focus on that situation, whatever it may be. If it's something, let's take a common example, which many of you have experience of, a relationship that is troubling and perhaps even hostile and even disastrous. Hold the fear that you're feeling around that relationship in this one hand, and then in the other hand, hold the love that you can focus on, like a laser beam, on that situation. And you don't have to go into a lot of detail here. You don't have to go into, well, I hate this guy because he has done this and that to me. That you don't want to go there. All you want to do is to hold the fear in one hand, hold the love in the other hand, let the love be focused in a laser-like fashion on the situation. And again, you don't have to go into the specifics. Just realize that you are all here together. You already know this, Barbara, but you're all here together in this co-creative experience. And so even your perceived enemies are not your enemies, they're your friends. They're here for you to grow. You are here for them to grow. So if you can perceive these kinds of situations where you're having huge challenges, if you can perceive them more in the light of love instead of the light of fear, then there is no light in fear. Anyway. So again, to get back to what we were saying a few moments ago, hold the fear in one hand, hold the love in the other hand, and then it becomes very simple. Choose the love. It's that simple. And we know many will disagree with us on that, but it really is that simple. There's nothing difficult about living the life of your dreams. You just have to choose it and choose love.
So, in the context of work, as we are working for yourself as opposed to the old ways, 9 to 5 thing, if somebody was facing a decision, do I go out on my own or do I go back to the job?
Mm-hmm.
Would it be an idea for them to hold my new career in one hand, my old way in the other, and focus love on the new path?
Exactly. It's an exact, yes, that's perfect. It's a beautifully perfect and powerful way to express it. Because what you're doing is you're fearful of the old way. So you're holding that in one hand, but there's a sense of security about it because it's familiar. Because you've been used to it for so long. On the other hand, you've got this new path, this exciting new adventure, this dream you would like to follow. And because you haven't had a lot of experience with it, you're fearful because it's uncertain. Embrace the uncertainty. Embrace the fear and let it all go.
Sounds so simple when you say it. I'm sure many people will benefit from hearing that because I think it's a really good, simple exercise for people to do.
Mm-hmm. It is. It is simple. The best things in your lives in this, especially in this time of turmoil on your planet, the best things in your lives are the simplest. We've been saying that for many, many years. And we remember something John is very fond of, a quote from your absolutely delightful scientist, Albert Einstein, who was a big advocate of simplicity. He said something to the effect, this isn't an exact quote, but he said something to the effect that if you can't explain something simply, then you don't understand it. Life is simple. It really is. You humans make it so damned complicated because you can't believe that life can be as easy as it can be. And certainly you have your challenges. Your souls, your higher selves, your goddess and god selves knew this before you incarnated. You knew there would be challenges, but you didn't intend it to be all complicated and convoluted and just so difficult that you had to go through all the experiences you've chosen. Again, we're going back to the recent experiences that you've all had in the United States. You didn't intend for it to be that painful. But if that's what it takes to wake you up, then fine. Yeah. And that apparently is what's been taking to wake you up. And we have the greatest compassion for all of you. We have the greatest love for all of you, but we also will not interfere with your choices. And so you do whatever you need to do, and you will, in the end, if you will, there is no end, of course, but you will be just fine. And all is well. All really is well. Just find joy in knowing that. Find joy. The more joy and the more fun you have in knowing that all this stuff that's going on right now, whether it's joyful or painful, is good. It's good. And you've chosen it. You're growing from it. You're learning from it. And the best thing about it all, Barbara, is that you're learning or remembering, we should say, to know that the only thing that matters, the only thing that has ever mattered, the only thing that will ever matter is love. It's that simple.
Well, thank you. Thank you for answering our questions tonight.
You're welcome.